Imagine a single thread that weaves through centuries, connecting events, people, beliefs. A thread so enduring that it has survived wars, exiles, and countless attempts to erase it. This thread belongs to a people, an ancient community with roots so deep that their story intertwines with the origins of civilization itself. Who are they? And what secrets might their resilience reveal? I'm not just talking about any culture here. I'm talking about one of the oldest, most enduring, and perhaps most misunderstood peoples on Earth, the Jewish people. Their history is like an ancient mosaic, with each tile a story of survival, strength, mystery, and influence that stretches across millennia. So today we're peeling back the layers to explore not just the what of their history, but the why behind their resilience. Why have they, more than most, survived upheaval after upheaval? And what hidden knowledge or philosophies might they carry that have helped them build communities, empires, and legacies that persist even today? Buckle up, because we're diving into a journey across ancient lands, secret societies, and powerful family dynasties. This is a story of survival and mystery, wealth and persecution, myths and conspiracies. And by the end, you might find yourself asking, have we just scratched the surface of something far deeper? Let's begin. Our story begins in the ancient lands of the Middle East, where small tribes wandered, lived, and worshipped in a world dominated by polytheistic beliefs. But within this chaotic tapestry, one group stood out. They called themselves Hebrews, later known as Israelites, and eventually, the Jewish people. From the very beginning, the Jewish people embraced something revolutionary: monotheism, the belief in one singular, omnipotent God. Can you imagine it? In a world where every village, every city-state worshipped a pantheon of gods and goddesses, here was a people daring to say there was only one divine being. This belief not only made them unique, but also set them on a collision course with surrounding cultures. But why would anyone cling so fiercely to a single god in a world where countless gods could be called upon for protection, prosperity, or even revenge? The answer lies in their shared identity and a sacred covenant with this God. According to their sacred texts, from patriarchs like Abraham and prophets like Moses, they were bound to uphold a legacy that wasn't just about survival, but about preserving wisdom, an ancient wisdom that would later become the foundation of Western religious and philosophical thought. Yet their journey was far from easy. From the beginning, they were a people constantly on the move. Their scriptures speak of bondage in Egypt, where they toiled as slaves. Generations passed, and as the story goes, a prophet named Moses would lead them to freedom, guiding them back to their promised land. But freedom came with a price. For a people so few in number, the promised land lay surrounded by powerful empires: the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Romans. Each, in turn, would conquer, oppress, and scatter them. It seemed, at times, that the very existence of the Jewish people was a challenge to these empires. But what was it about them that provoked such intense reactions? Was it simply their different customs and beliefs, or was there something more? Perhaps a resilience that defied understanding, a unity that held strong despite every effort to erase them. This, my friends, is where the story of survival takes on a darker, more mysterious hue. As the Jewish people established communities across Europe and the Middle East, they encountered new lands, cultures, and dangers. One danger, however, would follow them like a shadow: anti-Semitism. But how did it begin? And why did it persist across centuries and borders? Imagine you're in medieval Europe, a time when the church wielded immense power. For centuries, Jews were often barred from owning land or joining guilds, so they turned to other professions, many becoming merchants, traders, and yes, moneylenders. But here's the irony. Moneylending was a profession often forbidden to Christians by the church, and so Jews filled that niche. Yet, the very role they were forced into would fuel resentment, envy, and suspicion. And this resentment wasn't just personal, it became systemic. Throughout Europe, Jews were often confined to ghettos, segregated from the rest of society. They were forced to wear distinguishing clothing or badges, setting them apart as other, as dangerous. But why such hostility? Was it simply because they were different? Or did their resilience in the face of isolation make others uneasy? The situation reached new depths of cruelty, with the rise of scapegoating during times of crisis. In the 14th century, as the Black Death ravaged Europe, rumors spread like wildfire, accusing Jews of poisoning wells and causing the plague. In towns across Europe, entire Jewish communities were massacred based on nothing more than superstition. How could a society so steeped in faith and reason allow itself to be swept up in such baseless hatred? This fear and prejudice would only grow darker, culminating in one of history's most insidious texts, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. This forged document purported to reveal a Jewish plot to control the world and was used by leaders like Hitler to justify unspeakable atrocities. But here's the question: why did people continue to believe these lies, generation after generation? Could it be that the Jewish people's success, their unity, and their cultural tenacity seemed almost supernatural to their detractors? Or was it because, throughout every exile and persecution, they managed to hold on to something deeper, a knowledge, a resilience that others couldn't understand? These aren't easy questions to answer, and as we delve deeper, the mystery only grows. Imagine a people forced to scatter across foreign lands, uprooted from their homes time and again, yet somehow managing to retain a sense of identity and community. The Jewish diaspora is perhaps one of history's most remarkable stories of survival and adaptation. But what if their survival goes beyond resilience? What if it's a mystery hidden in plain sight? The Jewish people were exiled from their homeland multiple times, beginning as early as the Babylonian conquest in 586 BCE. With each new exile, they encountered diverse cultures, languages, and religions. And yet, against all odds, they managed to preserve their traditions, their faith, and even their language. Today, historians and anthropologists study this as a phenomenon, a kind of cultural elasticity that defies conventional logic. Recent documentaries like The Jewish Diaspora, Secrets of Survival, delve into how, unlike most displaced groups who assimilate over generations, the Jewish people maintained a cultural toolkit. This toolkit, some scholars suggest, includes elements like storytelling, adaptability, and an almost mystical focus on education and family bonds. It's as though, over centuries, the Jewish people developed an internal framework that protected them from being swallowed by the majority culture around them. One fascinating theory explored in recent research is the role of Jewish texts in preserving identity. You see, the Jewish people had the Torah and later the Talmud, texts not only containing religious laws, but also philosophies, histories, and ethical teachings that governed daily life. These books became portable homes for a people without a permanent homeland. When one could carry the Torah, they carried not only their religion, but their identity, their customs, and their values. This adaptability was also linguistic. For example, the development of Yiddish, a language that evolved from High German with influences from Hebrew, Aramaic, and various Slavic languages, acted as a cultural glue. Yiddish became the language of the Ashkenazi Jewish community in Central and Eastern Europe, enabling Jewish identity to persist even among those who had never seen their ancestral homeland. It's almost as if their language became a hidden passport, a way to maintain a shared experience even when spread across vast distances. But here's where the story takes a more mysterious turn. Consider the Kabbalistic tradition, an ancient Jewish mystical practice that some believe contains secret knowledge about the universe and the human soul. Kabbalah isn't just religious text, it's a set of spiritual practices that many Jews use to maintain inner strength, wisdom, and guidance through uncertain times. Is it possible that this mystical knowledge served as a spiritual anchor, helping Jewish communities endure unimaginable hardship? Even today, some see the Kabbalah as more than mere mysticism. In the documentary Secrets of the Kabbalah, scholars argue that Kabbalah provided a metaphysical framework for resilience. Some teachings in Kabbalah emphasize the idea of tikkun olam, repairing the world. This belief instilled a sense of duty in Jewish communities to seek improvement and healing, not just for themselves, but for humanity as a whole. So is it possible that Jewish survival and resilience are due not just to cultural practices, but to something more profound? A hidden framework, woven through language, spirituality, and a timeless commitment to education, that has preserved their identity through every upheaval. Let us know what you think in the comments. Is survival merely a matter of tradition? Or is there something more ethereal, almost mystical, at work? Share your theories. After all, some mysteries are best explored together. In our modern world, we often take for granted the pillars of science, philosophy, and education, but what if I told you that Jewish scholars and thinkers helped lay some of these very foundations? This influence is a lesser-known but remarkable chapter in the story of Jewish resilience and adaptation, a chapter that scholars and researchers are only now beginning to fully understand. In medieval Spain, Jewish thinkers participated in what would later be called the Golden Age of Jewish culture. During this period, Jewish scholars didn't just survive, they thrived. They became philosophers, mathematicians, poets, and scientists who would go on to influence both the Islamic and Christian worlds. Figures like Maimonides, known for his works on philosophy and ethics, created texts that combined Jewish theology with Greek and Arabic philosophy. His book, The Guide for the Perplexed, is still studied today for its insights on faith and reason. Think about this. Maimonides' work was so influential that it became a cornerstone for Christian and Islamic scholars as well. It's fascinating, isn't it? A Jewish philosopher in the 12th century writing about faith and logic ends up shaping not only Jewish thought, but also the intellectual framework of Western civilization. But it wasn't just philosophy. Jewish thinkers also made strides in the sciences. Have you heard of Abraham ibn Ezra? He was a medieval scholar who made groundbreaking contributions to astronomy and mathematics. Ibn Ezra's works on the stars and celestial movements were so advanced that they influenced Renaissance astronomers and even Copernican theories centuries later. How could a community constantly uprooted and marginalized contribute so much to scientific knowledge? One documentary, Jewish Wisdom and the Rise of Science, explores how Jewish communities in the Middle Ages preserved and transmitted knowledge in a way that was almost revolutionary. Jewish scholars often had access to Arabic texts, mathematics, medicine, and astronomy that had been translated from Greek into Arabic and then into Hebrew. These texts, passed from scholar to scholar, laid the groundwork for much of Europe's intellectual renaissance. Another point worth exploring is Jewish involvement in the foundation of modern psychology. Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, and Erich Fromm, all monumental figures in the world of psychology, came from Jewish backgrounds. Their work on human behavior, the unconscious mind, and society's influence on the individual transformed the 20th century. Imagine the impact. Freud's theories alone reshaped how humanity perceives itself, marking a profound cultural and intellectual shift. Some even believe that the Talmudic method of critical analysis influenced the scientific method itself. The Talmudic tradition encourages questioning, dissecting, and rigorously examining all facets of an argument. Is it possible that this culture of inquiry gave rise to the very principles that would define scientific reasoning? This brings us to a thought-provoking question. Is the Jewish impact on science and philosophy merely a coincidence of history, or is it a testament to an internal resilience, a focus on knowledge as the ultimate tool for survival? It's almost as if they understood that knowledge could act as a shield, one that no conqueror could break, no exile could erase. As we consider this hidden chapter in history, we're left with one undeniable fact. Knowledge for the Jewish people was more than just power. It was survival. It was a means to shape the world, even when they themselves were marginalized within it. What do you think? Could it be that the Jewish people's intellectual legacy is as crucial to their survival as their cultural traditions? Perhaps this legacy continues to influence us in ways we haven't yet fully understood, and maybe, just maybe, we're all a part of this larger, unfolding story. Now let's turn to a name shrouded in myth, rumor, and whispers of unimaginable power, the Rothschild family. This family's story has sparked some of the world's most enduring conspiracy theories. But how much of what we hear is fact and how much is fiction? The Rothschilds started humbly, in a narrow Jewish ghetto in Frankfurt, Germany. Mayor Amschel Rothschild, a money changer and financial advisor, began loaning money to princes, kings, and emperors. Mayor's sons continued this tradition, establishing banks in London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt. Their influence grew so vast that they were often said to control the fates of nations. Consider this. At the Battle of Waterloo, the Rothschilds supposedly orchestrated a masterstroke of financial strategy. It's said that Nathan Rothschild knew of Napoleon's defeat before the British government. He spread false rumors in London, driving the stock market down, and bought everything at a fraction of its true worth. Was this just clever business, or the beginning of a shadowy empire? But here's where the conspiracy theories spiral out of control. Stories surface suggesting that the Rothschilds, as Jews, sought world domination through a complex web of banks, secret alliances, and shadow governments. While these theories are false, they've fueled anti-Semitic propaganda for generations. Let's ask ourselves, why do these theories persist? Why is it that powerful Jewish families like the Rothschilds are so often painted as puppet masters of the world? Could it be because for centuries the Jewish people have excelled in fields of knowledge, finance, and education, and because their success feels to some almost threatening? What if, instead of a sinister plot, this success is the result of hard work, unity, and perhaps a unique worldview that values wisdom and resilience? What if the real secret isn't wealth or control, but knowledge? A kind of knowledge passed down not just through families, but through thousands of years of culture and tradition. It's a mystery that continues to haunt us, and one that may never be fully understood. Now let's dive into one of the most compelling aspects of Jewish culture: their approach to success, wealth, and resilience. How is it that a community so often marginalized has produced some of the world's most successful minds, from Albert Einstein to Mark Zuckerberg? At the heart of this question is a deeply ingrained cultural philosophy, rooted in teachings that go back thousands of years. In Jewish culture, wealth isn't seen as a taboo or a sin. Instead, it's a responsibility. The Jewish concept of tzedakah, often translated as charity, is more accurately understood as justice. According to Jewish law, giving isn't just an act of kindness, it's an obligation. A minimum of 10% of one's earnings is set aside for those in need, a practice that builds both community and resilience. And there's more. In ancient Jewish texts like the Talmud, we find advice on investment, money management, and the importance of education, principles that still guide Jewish communities today. For instance, the idea of diversifying wealth is as old as these texts. The Talmud advises a person should always keep 1/3 of his money in land, 1/3 in merchandise, and 1/3 readily available. This isn't just financial wisdom, it's a philosophy of balance, patience, and long-term vision. But the true magic might lie in education. Throughout history, Jewish communities have placed immense value on learning. In times of crisis, when Jews were expelled from their homes or forced into ghettos, knowledge was something that couldn't be taken away. This legacy of education has given them an edge in fields like science, finance, law, and the arts. And so, even in the face of adversity, they adapted and thrived. Is it possible, then, that the real secret isn't some arcane knowledge, but a mindset? A mindset that values education, resilience, and community above all else? It's an approach that has allowed Jewish culture to persist, adapt, and even flourish against all odds. Perhaps this is what some would call hidden knowledge. Not in the sense of conspiracy, but in the sense of wisdom passed down, tested, and refined over thousands of years. If success can indeed be taught, maybe the Jewish people have simply perfected that lesson. And the more we uncover, the more questions seem to appear. So, what do you think? Could the Jewish people's resilience be more than just historical coincidence? Could there be a wisdom woven into their culture that has sustained them through centuries of hardship and triumph alike? As we peel back the layers of this story, we're left with more questions than answers. But that's the nature of mystery, isn't it? It keeps us searching, wondering, questioning. So tell me, what's your theory? Could the success and resilience of the Jewish people be explained by history alone? Or do you think there's something more, a hidden knowledge that we may never fully grasp? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going, and who knows, maybe together we'll get one step closer to uncovering the truth.